Okay, so the area under a speed time graph represents the distance traveled by the object. So in our practice problem number 2, what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the distance traveled by each of these objects on the graphs, and then which one traveled the furthest. So this is hopefully a pretty easy one for you guys, especially since this is using information that you have learned in the past. In math class or in science, but mostly probably math. So one thing that I'm going to refresh you on is how to actually calculate area. And here we're only going to calculate 2 different areas. The area of a rectangle and the area of a triangle. And the formulas, if you don't remember, a rectangle is length times width, and a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Okay? So in knowing that, we can actually calculate these because we've got a rectangle, a triangle, and then a rectangle and triangle together. So for the first one, we've got length times width. So our length is 3 and our width is 10. So this would be 3 multiplied by 10. And that would give us 30. Something to note here is that we need to keep our units, which I didn't do, so I'm going to redo this one. We've got 3 seconds multiplied by 10 meters per second. And notice what happens here is that because we have seconds on the top and on the bottom, they'll actually cancel out. And what we'll be left with is meters. So when we're doing this, we're actually calculating distance. And that's what it literally said in the question is we're calculating to find the area, we're finding the distance that something traveled. Perfect. So for 3 times 10, we get 30, and that's meters. For B, it's a triangle, so we need to use base times height divided by 2. So really just the 2 sides, then divided by 2, because it's really half of a rectangle. So the one side here, we've got 5, and that's seconds, multiplied by the other side, which is 6, and that's meters per second. And if we calculate that out, that would give us 30 divided by 2. So 15, and that's meters. All right. And then the last one, C, I'm going to do down here. This one is a triangle and a rectangle, so we actually need to calculate them both separately and then add them together. So for the first one, we've got a triangle. Wow, really bad triangle. This reminds me of some like teacher memes I've seen where every teacher is like, I'm not an artist, and then they draw on the board. Well, I can't even draw a triangle. So glad I'm a science math person or teacher, because I definitely would not be a good art teacher. So back to this base times height divided by 2. For our triangle, we need to do our 2 sides and then divide it by 2. So we've got 3 on one side, and the height of it is 8. So 3 times 8, and then divided by 2. So 3 times 8 is 24, and then 24 divided by 2 would give us 12 meters. All right, we're not done. We still need to do the rectangular part, which is length times width. So doing that, we've got the length, this part by this. Remember, we're not going to do this whole part, but just the one little part. So between 3 and 5, that's actually only 2 times the height again, which is 8. So that gives us 16. And that's meters. So if we add 16 and 12 together, That'll give us a total of 18 meters. Not 18 meters, 28. Sorry. Woo. Forgot. That looks terrible. But 28 is what it is. All right, so if we're comparing them all, and in B it says which object traveled the furthest, well, the one that traveled the furthest is going to be A. And that's because A is 30 meters, B was 15, and C was 28. So the one that traveled the furthest was A.